Hello, my name is Ramakrishna. Basically, we are discussing one topic that is city creation. City creation. Basically, we are discussing one other topic that is universe creation, basically, and that is basically design creation, basically, which is one way. Here, basically, we are discuss that basically the earthquake, basically, which has happened basically just now, basically in previous video, basically that was connected with that incident, basically, which so one of the person told that you can't ignore a single earthquake, basically. So the earthquake basically which is coming now, basically just now, basically, which we saw the earthquake basically in previous video, that earthquakes are basically the incidents, basically, and that basically is the your project, basically, that also you can say, basically. And that basically here basically the data science company, basically, that are the TCS company, the big companies like Infosys, the company like Patani, the company like eClearX, the company like Capgemini, the company like Accenture, they plays very dangerous role, basically. Here basically the data science entered, basically. So this basically only data science project only basically can solve, basically, because they basically contains the each and every incidence, basically. Because one of the person told that if from blood cells basically we can create the incidence, sorry, we can capture the each and every incidence, basically. For example, A blood group basically got that problem, basically. A blood group basically got that problem, basically, and due to the problem basically was connected with a D blood sorry, connected with his one of the person, basically. His group basically was having 150 crore people, basically. In that 150 crore, one person was having the problem, and that problem basically was not solved, and it connected to that particular person, basically, and that basically immediately connected to the earthquake, because from earthquake basically you can connect to the exact incidents, basically, from where basically the things basically was connected. That's why basically the each and every places basically plays very dangerous role, basically. Each and every place, that's why basically one of the person told that to create city, basically it's very dangerous, basically. It's very dangerous, it's not easy to create the cities, basically. And each and every entry point of the city basically plays very dangerous role, basically. Very dangerous. And this basically police department basically say that we are basically doing very comfortable. So in this basically the earthquake group basically can take the help of the police department, basically. And one of the person told that the earthquake group basically are connected with the each and every government departments that are basically because the place access, basically. For example, this is the plate, basically, and to access the data from this place basically only government basically can give the access, basically. Only government have the authority to give the access basically of the particular place, basically. So only government basically have the access, basically, and basically the higher group basically that are the satellite groups and the other groups and the private groups basically who are connected with the governments. They only basically have the access, basically. They basically only have the access, basically. So one of the person told that this is also basically one of the thing, basically, and this is also basically one of the incidents, basically, you can say. So in each and every incident basically happens in this world, basically, that is connected with this above diagram, basically, just now, basically, which we discussed, basically. And this basically is one of the biggest project basically of the, and the one of the person told that who basically have this data, basically, he is the richest software company, basically, that also you can say, basically. Richest means very richest software company, basically, because each and every data basically you have to see the physical verification, basically, because before having the data into the environment, basically, for example, that A blood group basically got some problem, basically, immediately that time only the power company collected the data, and that immediately basically they done the process, and immediately basically they send the data to the environment, and the earthquake basically connected. So that which was that incidence, basically, that also basically they have to track, basically. That's why basically the physical places are basically there, basically, in each and every area. Physical places, physical people basically are there in the each and every areas, basically. So here basically we have taken the example of one of the system, basically, that is earthquake system, basically. So each and every incident basically which happens in this world, basically, that are connected with the set of creation, basically. Whatever things basically you create, basically, that connects with the set of incidents only, basically. Whatever happens, basically. So one of the person told that that is like this only, basically. So here basically we have taken the example of incidents, basically. I will take one more example. Assume that basically I went to one of the company basically, that is the Infosys basically. Assume that basically, just taking as an example, but they don't take BCom people basically. Assume that basically they basically takes basically BCom people, but in the contract base basically. Assume that basically one of the Infosys person basically, one of the Infosys recruiter person basically, or one of the technical person or one of the management side basically, they taken the interview of Sunil Nair basically, and they told that basically your interviews basically, and they basically taken interview of in Bangalore basically. Assume that basically, just taking as an example basically. So basically they started some set of level of question basically. They started asking set of level of question basically. They asked what is agile, what is waterfall, what is management, how basically you will manage the team, how basically the management basically works, this, that, each and everything basically. They started asking the question. They told that what is actually software industry, what is you have basically written in the profile that basically text box equal to 1000 city, what is that basically. Then basically how basically you can say that basically SAP basically contains first world war, second world war data, you have any proof basically. And how basically you can say that Microsoft basically is having the data of first world war and second world war data, how basically you can say that basically. This type of basically question basically Infosys person basically are, because they say that basically we have watched your video basically, in that from that video basically we connected to, and then basically like this basically the how you can see that, because we have also basically done lots of project basically in SAP basically. So you are basically directly blaming us basically, that we are basically in this war basically, first world war and second world war. That means you want to say that each and every software companies, in the behalf of the all software company, they basically started asking the question basically, that basically you want to say that TCS group is basically connected with the first world war and second world war data. They are basically doing the process of first world war and second world war data. Then the eClarex basically company started doing the question basically, how basically you can say that basically the SAP basically is containing the first world war and second world war data basically. That means you want to say that first world war and second world war data is getting processed from the SAP basically. So that type of things basically started asking basically with the Sunil Ramakrishna Iyer by the Infosys. Just taking as an example basically, how basically this is going to connect, that basically we are seeing. So like this basically they started asking basically. Then basically they told that you have basically taken one example of the CRM also basically, that there was the CRM basically project started launching basically in this time basically, and this was the power company basically who given the power supply to TCS basically, and they basically started the CRM project basically. Like this also basically you told. So you have the data basically of the power company basically, that who was that power company and how which was with the things basically. You have the entire set of one thing basically, how basically the 16 project managers basically started doing the conversation, and 16 ways basically of the CRM project was generated. Then basically like these things basically started doing that. Then basically the TCS group, they basically on the behalf of TCS group basically they also basically asked the question basically, that this thing basically which you are telling basically, that is basically 100% sure, or basically you are just telling like that basically. So just like this basically the discussion basically, the interview questions basically started. Then basically the question basically are connecting to each and every things basically, just see basically. Then basically then the Infosys group basically told that basically, that means you want to say this, for example Infosys has created SAP CRM project, payroll project, then basically the ERP project, and then the banking project from SAP basically. So you want to say that basically the banking basically project, for example they have created HDFC Bank, HSBC banks, and this that means you want to say that HSBC Bank and HDFC banks are basically connected with the first world war and second world war data. You want to say that basically, like this basically the conversation basically started. Then they told that basically we basically are using this ERP product in Telsa basically. Telsa is one of the company basically of the car basically. Then they were also basically using the SAP product which is created by the Infosys. Just taking as an example basically how this is going to connect basically, that's it. So he told that basically Telsa company is basically there. They basically use this CRM project basically for their particular car basically. So you want to say that basically the Telsa group basically are connected with the third world war, sorry, second world war and first world war data basically. Then basically they told that basically